A Harvard's top astronomer says Oumuamua was not natural. A Harvard professor just staked his entire career on the claim that we have already made first contact. That professor is Avi Loeb, chair of Harvard's astronomy department, author of over 700 peer-reviewed scientific papers, one of the most decorated astrophysicists alive. And in 2018, he looked at the data coming in from a small, strange object passing through our solar system, and he concluded something that shook the entire scientific establishment to its core. What he found wasn't a comet. It wasn't an asteroid. According to Loeb, it behaved in ways that no natural object should be capable of. And the implications, if he's right, are the most significant in all of human history. Tonight, we're going inside his argument, the data, the physics, the peer-reviewed science, and why so many of his colleagues are desperately trying to look away. In October 2017, astronomers at the Pan-STARRS telescope in Hawaii spotted something moving through our solar system at extraordinary speed. They named it Oumuamua, a Hawaiian word meaning a messenger from afar, arriving first. It was the first object ever detected that appeared to originate from outside our solar system entirely. That alone made it historic. Scientists were excited. This was exactly the kind of interstellar visitor astronomers had theorized about for decades. But when they started running the numbers, the excitement turned into something else entirely. Oumuamua wasn't behaving like any natural object they had ever seen. First, there was its shape. Based on how its brightness fluctuated as it tumbled through space, astronomers calculated that Oumuamua was roughly 10 times longer than it was wide, an extreme, elongated, almost flat geometry, unlike any known asteroid or comet in our solar system or beyond. Some estimates suggested it was shaped more like a thin disk or a cigar than any naturally formed rock. Then there was its speed. Oumuamua was moving fast, which you'd expect from an interstellar traveler, but as it swung around the sun and headed back out into deep space, it accelerated, and that acceleration could not be explained by gravity alone. This is where the story gets serious. In conventional astronomy, when an object passes close to the sun and accelerates beyond what gravity predicts, there's a well-understood explanation: outgassing. Comets do this all the time. Solar heat vaporizes ice and trapped gases beneath the surface, and that escaping material acts like a tiny thruster, pushing the comet forward. But Oumuamua showed no signs of outgassing. None. Astronomers looked for the signature trail of gas and debris that any comet would leave behind. It wasn't there. The object was clean, silent, leaving nothing behind. So what was causing the extra acceleration? This is the question that consumed Avi Loeb. And when he and his colleague Shmuel Bialy ran the physics, they arrived at a conclusion that they published, formally, officially, in the Astrophysical Journal Letters in November 2018. Their conclusion: the most plausible explanation for Oumuamua's anomalous acceleration was radiation pressure from the sun, sunlight pushing it like wind against a sail. But here's the critical part. For radiation pressure to produce the observed acceleration, the object would need to be extraordinarily thin, perhaps a millimeter thick, while spanning hundreds of meters across. In other words, a structure far too thin and far too flat to have formed naturally. Loeb called it what the physics pointed to: a light sail, possibly of artificial origin, not a metaphor, not a thought experiment, a published, peer-reviewed scientific paper from Harvard suggesting Oumuamua may have been a technological object built by another civilization. If you're finding this as mind-blowing as I am, hit that like button and subscribe, because what comes next is where this story gets even harder to dismiss. Let's be precise about what the evidence actually shows, because this is where Loeb separates himself from fringe speculation. He is not claiming to have seen aliens. He is applying the same scientific logic used in every other field. When your data produces an anomaly, you consider all hypotheses, including uncomfortable ones, and you follow the evidence. The anomalies in Oumuamua's data are not disputed. The excess acceleration is real. The absence of outgassing is real. The extreme geometry is real. These are observational facts confirmed by multiple independent research teams across the world. What is disputed is the interpretation. Most of Loeb's colleagues have proposed alternative natural explanations. One team suggested Oumuamua could be a fragment of a shattered planet, a piece of exotic solid hydrogen that would be light enough to respond to radiation pressure. But when other scientists modeled this, they found that a hydrogen iceberg would have evaporated long before reaching our solar system. Another proposal suggested it could be a dust aggregate, a loosely bound, porous cloud of particles. But the structural integrity required to survive its journey and its close solar pass makes that model extremely difficult to sustain physically. Each natural explanation, when stress-tested against all the data simultaneously, breaks down somewhere. Loeb's position is not that aliens are the answer. His position is that we should not rule it out simply because it makes us uncomfortable. There are currently 3 serious frameworks for what Oumuamua might have been. The first is the natural exotic object theory, that Oumuamua represents a new class of interstellar material we simply haven't encountered before. Unfamiliar, unusual, but ultimately produced by natural astrophysical processes. This is the position most mainstream astronomers publicly support, largely because it requires no extraordinary claims. The second is the derelict technology theory, Loeb's primary position. That Oumuamua was a piece of alien technology, possibly non-functional, drifting through interstellar space. A discarded light sail or wreckage from a civilization that may no longer exist. Not a directed mission, not a probe watching us, just debris, the way we leave debris. The third theory, held by a smaller number of researchers, is far more unsettling, that Oumuamua was a functional probe, that its trajectory, which carried it directly through our solar system's habitable zone, was not entirely coincidental, that its acceleration upon departure was not passive, that something, somewhere, noticed us first. No current evidence proves or disproves any of these 3 positions definitively, but only one of them has been formally argued in peer-reviewed literature by a Harvard professor with nothing obvious to gain and a great deal of professional reputation to lose. Here is perhaps the most disturbing part of this entire story. Oumuamua is gone. It has left our solar system and is now so far away that no telescope on Earth or in orbit can reach it. We had weeks to study it up close, and for much of that window the scientific community was still debating whether it was even worth prioritizing. We may have just watched the most important object in human history disappear into the dark and done almost nothing about it. Avi Loeb understood this. It's part of why he launched the Galileo Project, a funded, institutional, scientific effort to systematically search for physical evidence of extraterrestrial technology using rigorous data collection and transparent methodology. Not government programs operating in secrecy, open science. Because whether Oumuamua was natural or not, Loeb's deeper argument is this: we are not looking hard enough, and we are not taking the question seriously enough. And that choice, that comfortable, cautious, career-protecting choice, may be the most consequential mistake our species ever makes. Avi Loeb did not ask you to believe in aliens. He asked you to believe in data, to follow evidence wherever it leads, even when it leads somewhere frightening. That's not fringe science. That's the entire premise of science itself. Thank you for watching. If this story made you think differently about what's out there, or about how we choose to look, leave a comment or below. I want to know, do you think Oumuamua was natural, or did we just miss something that was never meant to be missed? Like this video if it changed how you see the sky tonight, and subscribe, because we're only getting deeper from here.